Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, October 8th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Illinois game in 3 days, the game against Michigan in 52 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. This is going to be the first of what will probably be 2 shows for today. I don't know, you can consider this a bonus show if you want to. I'm going to let you hear a little bit from Bret Bielema, Illinois head coach. He was not every Ohio State fan's favorite when he was at Wisconsin in the early 2000s. Helped that he beat Ohio State, upset a number 1 Ohio State ranked team in 2010. But you're going to get to hear a little bit from him now. He's, become a little more lovable over the years, I think, for a lot of Ohio State fans. You're going to hear a little bit from him. He'll go to show with Ross Fulton a little later on today, focused on the Ohio State offense and how they did against Minnesota. But first, let's let you hear from Bret. Just some general thoughts on this Saturday's game against Ohio State.
Obviously, a tremendous challenge here with Ohio State. Got a lot of respect for Ryan and his staff, and know several of his coaches. Don't know them well. Obviously, Matt there, Patricia as a defense coordinator. I never really crossed paths with him at New England. Followed after him. A lot of respect for what he built there and what he did. And several of my players played for him at Detroit, and just a really fun thing to see him come in the league to what he brings, and obviously they're playing at a high level on defense. So offensively, I know Ryan's influence and what they do offensively. It's a very explosive offense. Got guys on the perimeter, very, very good up front offensive line, good tight end package, good wide receivers, obviously. So special teams. Good athletes all over the field, and they execute very, very well. So tremendous challenge, number 1 team in the country for a reason. But like our guys, like the attitude, like their demeanor. I don't know if we have ever, played a game yet where we put it all together for 4 quarters, and there'd be no better time than this week, right? This is a team that you need your best at opening snaps to the last snap. And with that being said, I need our crew out there in Memorial Stadium, Geese Memorial Stadium, to be as best as they've been. I tell our guys every day, 3 things you should do every day when you wake up. Do things right, respect everyone, and be the best you, right? Anybody that's coming in that stadium, if you can give me that on Saturday and be here a little early. Students, make an appeal to you. I know they got up early to go over to the Barstool Big Noon kickoff thing, and then they couldn't quite make it to the 4th quarter last time. So if you got to taper your entry to maybe like 7 or 8, don't be there at 2 a.m., because we need you for the long haul, right? We need you for as long as we need you on Saturday. So it should be a great environment. I'm telling you, when you walk into these environments in the Big Ten with great stadiums, you actually feel the energy when you walk on the field. And we are very, very close to doing that. And hopefully Saturday will be the icing on the cake for this year. So a tremendous moment. Memories are created from the opportunity to capitalize on individual moments. And this is one of those. So super excited about that. And hopefully we can make it all come true.
Mentioned Bret Bielema's upset of number 1 Ohio State in 2010. Illinois had their own upset of Ohio State when the Buckeyes were number 1. That, of course, came in 2007. Bret Bielema talked about the fact he didn't watch that one live, knows all about it. Did say, though, former Illinois quarterback Juice Williams will be at the game this weekend, so you have that to look forward to. You may have to avert your eyes, may see some highlights from that one during the broadcast. But here are Bret Bielema's thoughts on that game. As I said, didn't watch it live, but he knows all about it.
I know it's a big game. Juice reached out to us. I know Juice is going to be here, and he was a huge part of it. Got a couple coaches that were part of that. Obviously, Josh and his history here at Illinois. This has always been something that's been a really big game. You play Ohio State, it's a really good opportunity to see where you stand in college football, and they have held up their end of the bargain, and hopefully we're starting to hold up ours.
Well, Juice Williams led an upset of number 1 Ohio State in 2007. This year, if Illinois does it, it'll be behind Luke Altmyer. Altmyer had a really solid day against Purdue last week, 19 of 22, 390 yards, only 1 touchdown, kind of a weird stat line against the Boilermakers last Saturday. Bret Bielema was asked how Altmyer has developed into the player that he is today.
I'd say, for me in dealing with quarterbacks, I've always really admired guys that are the same guys every day, really all positions, right? And Luke is that. He's a definition of consistency. If something's off, you literally know right away what it is and why it is. So I think, one of the things that you can bring to an organization, especially successful organizations, you can be the same person every day. Consistency and communication is everything. And Luke has a very consistent way of doing things. He's a great communicator. He's not going to go out and talk to 50 people. He can do that, right? Like I saw him communicate in front of the basketball arena when he said he's coming back, and I saw that reaction, but he's also really good at these one-on-one conversations. I think out on the field of play, he communicates very, very well and is intentional in his leadership. I think he knew Saturday he could feel it. I had a meeting with him on Friday, and I literally walked out and I kind of had a conversation with myself, and then I saw Art Sikowski about 2 hours later in the hallway, and I said, our quarterback's feeling pretty good. And he started laughing. He goes, Coach, at an all-new high, right? So it was kind of, you could see that one coming and to see it materialize. I think his confidence in the way he talks when dealing with Hank, talking with our running backs, with our offensive line. And I tell you, the key for me last week when I knew we felt good was when he knew that Josh Kreutz wasn't going to play and he knew TJ was going to get his chance. He said, TJ's been great all week. Like, he literally – first thing out of his mouth. And I think that, when that gets relayed to TJ McMillan, that makes him feel really good.
That Illinois team that beat Ohio State in 2007, earlier in that year, the Buckeyes played Wisconsin when the Buckeyes were number 1 and Bielema was the head coach at Wisconsin. Badgers actually led that one 17-10 midway through the third quarter before Ohio State ran off 28 unanswered points to close the game and win 38-17. So is that something that Bret Bielema's maybe referenced this week in terms of just trying to reduce the mystique around the top-ranked team?
Yeah, we definitely are going through a process. I think anybody that knows me or has been around me and anybody that's, played for me, we have a way of doing things that is very guided. But yeah, I actually referenced that team to this group back in fall camp. To have this moment, there are a lot of things more to show them that this is something that if you come to college football, these moments really don't happen all that often. I've been head coach 17 years, and the amount of times where I get this moment have been very few. So to realize the moment you're in and take advantage of it, like I've said, I told it to our players yesterday, a special memory is created from moments, right? And what you do with that moment makes that memory. So I'm super excited for our guys. I'm really excited for our fans. I say it to our players, and I want people to understand where I'm coming from. This is no disrespect to anything that's happened in the past year, right? But, like, these moments just don't happen. They're created over a long time. The Michigan moment a year ago created a memory that lasts a lifetime. I still have people coming up to me this year and then that USC game last week was really, really pretty awesome, right? And obviously to have number 1 Ohio State coming here is awesome, but there's a lot of really good players that are playing on both sides of the ball. So, that was a night kickoff, so it was a little bit different. And that year we had lost to Michigan State early in the year, kind of knocked us back to. You're right. I think we were number 18, but that was pre, playoffs and all that stuff, right? So the rankings weren't there. So, but yeah, I think the fact that not many of our guys have been in these type of games. So the good news is they've been in a lot of big games and they've done well.
Illinois has had a little bit of an up and down season. They just had a really good win over USC a couple weeks ago, but then they got absolutely smoked by Indiana earlier in the year. And then they gave up 6 yards per play and 27 points to Purdue, which is not exactly a national title contender this year, in a 43-27 win. So just get Bret Bielema's thoughts on the defense in general right now.
Yeah, without a doubt, when we play defense, I don't mind, if we give a big play, we just got to get it down, right? And we've just given up over the last 3 or 4 games plays that are explosive and go across the end zone, right? And that's the things we can't play. There's so many times, even like Saturday, I think 2 of our last 3 drives defensively, they're going 2 minutes, we stopped them, right? And we just got the ball in front of us, got the ball down, they gained some yards. So I think that. Now I will say this, obviously I'm not oblivious that, defensively we've been pretty riddled with injuries, especially in the back end, which caused a whole chain reaction of things, but we're getting a little bit healthier. I think Aaron's understanding the personnel a little bit better, and then bottom line, the players around him got to play extremely well.
One of the things that has been an issue for Illinois on defense is limiting explosive plays. The Illini are tied for 91st in the country, allowing 6 plays of 40-plus yards, and tied for 83rd in the nation with 2 plays of 60-plus yards allowed. So, okay, what do the Illini need to do to get better?
I think twofold. You got to maximize the moments. Like if we dial up a pressure, it's got to land, right? If we got to overload a pressure, if we got to, sometimes like the little thing I always say, pressure away, make it stay. Like sometimes we brought some pressure and they've escaped out of it, right? And there's just some principles there that we got to do a better job of upholding. And tackling is a big part of that too. Like when you have some of those tackles, that could have been a 2 or 3 yard gain, and all of a sudden they're turning into 12, 15. The big play that actually got erased because they had a penalty on Saturday, that was like Matt was right there and got knocked off it. So, I know we'll emphasize that this week in practice, but this week in practice, in my opinion, for me as a head coach, the real challenge for me is to get my players ready to play at 100 miles an hour on Saturday, but also get them to prepare physically and mentally. So Tuesdays, we're not going to change. We're always a full padded big boy practice on Tuesdays, and I think we need that more than anything. But we also have to be super intelligent about to get to Saturday and play the way we are. I do like the cooler weather's coming. I think that should allow us to play in a way. I was a little concerned there's supposed to be some showers tomorrow, but it's going to dissipate, so I think we should be able to practice in our normal time slot, which is good.
This is kind of a little bit of a long, rambling answer, and he sort of touches on some stuff, and he kind of goes and ends up talking about a bunch of high school coaches and stuff, and this is just a classic Bret Bielema answer. But the guys he's talking about here, I just kind of wanted to talk about them for a minute, and you can let him talk a little bit about them and then their families and their high school coaches and all that kind of stuff. But two players to know at wide receiver for the Illini. Number one is Hank Beatty. He had five catches, 186 yards, and a touchdown against Purdue last week. He's over 500 yards already this season. Colin Dixon, 4 catches, 70 yards last weekend. He's over 300 yards receiving this season. Both of those guys averaging over 17 yards per catch this season. So here's Bret Bielema's thoughts on Hank Beatty and Colin Dixon.
I think Hank and Colin both are pretty special players. Really Hank, Colin, and Hudson. All three of those guys have more eligibility left, right? So, it's fun to think about that room and where they can go. I think a tremendous part of that is Justin Stepp. I think our wide receiver coach is the best I've ever had, and an extremely gifted person, but he's an extremely gifted human. Like, he is very intentional. I'll sit down there before our last meeting. I literally see him hand a card to every player. He writes a note and hands it to every wide receiver that plays in that game. And I don't know what's in that card. That's their business, right? But the intentionality of that, right, is really high level. And I think for a guy like Hank and a guy like Colin, they're very emotionally invested players, and they're not just showing up for work. I think what goes on in their heart and in their mind really carries onto the field, and that's not surprising. I'll go back to, with Hank Beatty's mom and dad, like both doctors that are just really, really high level care factor for Illinois. Like when I first talked to Coach when I was recruiting him, like just the passion that his high school people in his building, not just his head coach and all the assistants, the way the high school felt about him at Rochester, you could tell that he was really something special, and that's what we're seeing.
Mentioned that the big plays have been a problem for Illinois this season. Well, one of the ways you give up big plays is by missing tackles. That has been an issue for the Illini. So, all right, how do you fix that?
Well, first off, they're pretty good. And second thing is, we sometimes tackles are like other aspects of football. They kind of come contagious at times, and then they kind of spread into a lot of different areas. You got to build their confidence up. I think one of the things that plagued us, some of those balls that are getting into the second level are getting there very fast. So we just got to be better about what we want to do with the ball at the line of scrimmage so it doesn't get up on those guys really, really fast. And then just make sure that pre-snap wise, a big part of our defense is being able to, and I'm sure you hear when people talk about they play us like we don't show what we're doing sometimes, but at the same account, you can't put yourself. I remember there was a play earlier this year that happened at Duke. Xavier was bailing out over top, but he really was going at a bad angle when the guy's coming at a different angle. And I just said, hey, man, like there's some times where we can do that, but we got to put our guys in a position to make sure they can make plays, right? So I think that's a little bit of a combo platter.
Last week, going into the game against Minnesota, we talked about the fact that special teams had been a little bit of a disaster for the Gophers. They were ranked 90th in FEI, and then you saw Ohio State had a little bit of a trick play, made a big play on special teams with that throwback on the punt return. So this week against Illinois, you're probably not going to be able to pull off anything like that. Special teams have been a hallmark of Bielema's teams, and the Illini are third in FEI in special teams this year. They're 11 of 12 on field goals, averaging 45 yards per punt. This is a little bit of another kind of long, winding Bret Bielema answer, but what goes into making your special teams that good?
Well, I think, twofold our specialist, right, David, and what he's doing in the kickoff game. And he had the one out of bounds, but that's really the only flaw he's had the entire year. He's just those guys have had, I think we've had 3 kicks returned now, and none of them have gotten past the 20-yard line. So even if a team's brought it out, they haven't gone past the 20, which I don't know if there's another team in college football that's played. And then Crimmins, the way he hit the ball at Purdue, I mean, he had a little extra juice. That was his old team, right? It was funny. The official came up during that pileup for the loose ball. He's like, hey, one of your players is pulling somebody off. So I got on the offensive headset. I told offensive coaches, and I told the defensive coaches, well, hell, it was my punter, right? I didn't know it was my punter pulling people off. I said, do you have a little grudge? He goes, I don't know who it was. He said, but I just thought it was awesome. And then, Andre, like there's just some guys that have flashed. Ashton Hollins coming by and punching that thing out. That's contagious things, So, like, I just give – I mean, Robbie Disher, I think he's exceptional. Chris Hurd, you've heard me talk about him. It's just those guys. Harper Cole is another guy I brought in who was at TCU, played at Arkansas, a kid from the Chicagoland area. I mean, I literally sometimes will walk down the hallway at 1:30 in the morning, and those guys will be in there working. Like, it's just the amount of volume of work that those guys do is insane. And they attention to detail. And I will say this, Chris Hurd was the first guy, I believe, him and Harper, I went and sat in their meeting room, and they were the first time, Andre Lovett, they're like, Coach, this kid's really doing, it was like week 2, week 3, it was his practice reps, it was look team stuff that carried into where we are. So I've seen that happen time and time again, and that's really fun to watch.
Well, you will get to see Bielema's special teams and the rest of the Illini football team this Saturday at noon, big noon kickoff from Champaign. Tony and I will be there covering all of it for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com, YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle, all the stuff you've come to know and expect. We will be there covering it all. So hopefully we'll see you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Hope to see you at our YouTube channel as well. Make sure you're subscribed both places. We're going to have plenty of coverage this week of the game. Plenty to talk about in terms of recruiting, plenty to talk about in terms of X's and O's, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.